Welcome friends. Today we will be taking up the one of the most important and very emergent and need of the students and the coming of the doctors, because we are if we are going to become a doctor, especially in the allopathic medicine, or we are already dealing in the casualty or the emergency, then we go through a lot of the things that we generally being not taught in a particular fashion or particular line, because they just we gather from here and there and from one specialty to another. We learn something and we start dealing with it. Yeah, but here I have tried to summarize it up in a particular fashion, so that we as a doctor should be knowing that what is we have to do, and what there should be a complete overview of the emergency, and how the our new coming doctors should behave, how the new coming doctors should react, and how they should deliver. These all the things, various particular things that the coming up the doctors should be doing in the emergency or the casualty or in their clinic also, so they can be performing very well, and they should not be anyhow become negligent or something like that. Let's have some look over it. Definition of medico-legal cases. What are the medico-legal cases? First of all, not every case is a medico-legal case, but every case can turn into a medico-legal depending upon its condition. Sometimes the patient is being admitted as a non-medico-legal, but the person may fall or somebody pushed that person into the hospital, and that turns into medico-legal. So anything can happen. So we should be aware that what is medico-legal case and what is not medico-legal case, and what we have to do. Cases where attending doctor, after taking the history and clinical examination of the patient, think that some investigation by law enforcing agencies are essential, so as to fix the responsibility regarding the cases in accordance with the law of the land. So we should be aware what are the laws, and if some assault, some injury, or some abduction case, or some age related cases, some means something which is we think is unlawful, and we are bound to inform the cases to the police or the authorities, so that we should inform that. And these cases form generally medical legal cases like accident, like suicide, assault, and death, and various other cases. So we should be very much vigilant on this, and we should be keep informing the police through our police memos. That I may show you in the coming slides what are the police memos, what are the death certificates, and how we can call the magistrate and all that. We have to be very much well versed with these situations. Duty of a registered medical practitioner to save the life of a patient is the foremost, and to give primary treatment. If we are at what expertise, we should give that. If you are expertise of a plain MBBS, then we should give the treatment what is expected from us. Then we should refer that patient to a particular very specialized person. Then, or we are at the primary health center, our facilities are limited, then we should send our patient to the higher centers. Similarly, but if we are able to treat that patient, we should treat it and give the primary health care, and we should refer that patient to the higher institution. So to save the life, first of all we have to save the life of the person if we can, and if we have saved the life and further management is required, then we can send the person to the higher institution, or if that facility is available at our center, then we must do ourselves. Registered medical practitioner, that is emergency medical officer, assistant emergency medical officer at emergency, should decide whether the case is to be registered as a medical legal case or not. It should be very much clear that which case need to be a medical legal opinion or which case need to be registered as a uh, medical legal case, and we should be aware of that, and we should be going according to that. So, consent of a family member not required for registering a case as an MLC. So, in case that a family member is sometimes is not willing to inform to the police, but we as a physician, as the emergency officer, we should be registering, should be informing the case. I will tell you in which cases we should be inform the police and we should not inform the police. So, or we are not bound to inform the police. So, some of the cases are there, we are not bound to inform the police, and some are cases are must, we should inform the police without the consent of the family or the family member or even the patient also, because we have certain foundations to the state law and we should abide by that, and we should obey the law, and we should not hide anything from the state authorities, and that is sometimes not good for our practice also. So, we should be refer all the cases which are medical legal cases to the police and the magistrate. List of medical legal cases can be injuries due to accident and assault, suspected or evident case of suicide or homicide. Injury and assault, very clear. Accident and assault. Accident, this should also be reported. Suspected evident case of suicide or homicide, that I have already explained what is suicide and what is homicide. And sometimes attempted homicide is also should be reported under 307 IPC, attempted to murder. Confirmed or suspected cases of poisoning, whether it is self-taken or given, these all should be reported as a MLC case. Burns cases should be mostly in females, that are generally cases of dowry cases, so they should be reported. Case of injury in which likelihood of death, injuries leading to death, an assault has happened and an injury has happened and that can lead to death. Sexual offences are must and mandatory, and we as a medical doctor cannot refuse a patient of sexual offense for treatment. We have to treat it on the priority basis, on the emergent basis, and we should be treating it free, because the Supreme Court guidelines has clearly and the new laws are clearly mandates that we have to treat the patients of sexual assault free, and we cannot deny the patient. If we deny the patient, we can get punished also. There are different provisions of punishment in this. So, we cannot just say that we are not having facility and all that, but if it is we are at what level, what facility we are having, what training we are having, we should do that, and after that we should, stabilizing the patient, we can refer to further treatment, but we have to treat the patient, take the patient, and we cannot refuse the patient. Suspected, then another is suspected or evident case of criminal abortion. There is another cases for the, especially the obs and gynae cases, the patient comes after the abortion, and we should report to that, whether it is a criminal abortion or it is the case of even death also, child death also, premature death or the stillbirth. We have to report all these cases to the authority, and we should not keep the burden to ourselves, and we should keep our records clear. Records should be clear and updated, because we need everything should be documented. I was saying in the last lecture that most of the time these cases open after 4 to 5 years or even 10 years also, then we don't remember anything, and even the remembrance will not stand in the court. Most of the time people think that we we did this, we did that, and but we are not able to prove it because we have not written it. So only those things will be counted which you have written and be and verified, and nothing else can be added further on, because it's very, most of the time we just neglect in noting, or being careless in noting. Sometimes we miss noting because noting in the case sheet, and that missing is turned out to be against us. As a doctor, we do very good thing in the good faith of the patient, but when the cases come up and our case sheets are lacking some things, or having not fully documented findings, then we are helpless there. As a investigator, especially the forensic medicine people, we find that there are mainly because of the incomplete sheets or incomplete case files, that most of the clinicians or the doctors are being held responsible for negligence. So keep everything in writing, keep everything informed, and keep everything apprised and recorded. All patients brought to the hospital in suspicious conditions. These are the list of medical legal cases. Improper history, example, found dead on the road, destitutes. These all should be considered as medical legal cases. Unconscious patient, where cause of unconsciousness is not known. A patient is lying on the road unconscious in the room, nobody is attending. Then we should consider it as a case of medical legal importance. Child abuse, if we find a person being brought as a child is brought to the hospital for treatment, but during examination we find it that the child is a case of child abuse and chronic child abuse, then we should report it to the authorities, because it is a crime and we should not hide it, and we should report. Domestic violence, we should take that case as a medical legal case. Personal person under police custody or judicial custody, sometimes some people under trial and in the jail or in the judicial custody, they may die also. Then these deaths should also be reported at medical legal cases, and we should treat these cases too like that. And patient dying suddenly on operation table, this is on the very our own, happens in our own setups, like hospitals and the medical colleges, that the patient dies suddenly on the operation table after parenteral administration of drug or medication or some procedure which is very unlikely to cause death. So these all operation table death, sudden death, these all need to be very much investigated and accounted, and we should have death audit also in our hospital. So we should keep ourselves also checked. So this is very upcoming, one of the upcoming issues the government is going to take up, and we, as a teacher or as a speaker here or something, I would like to say to all of my listener or all of my post that this we have to minimize it. Either being careful with choosing the drugs, or being careful in taking the history, being careful in managing the further complications, then we should minimize this, because this is going to be one of the biggest problem in coming future for us, because when the insurance comes, consumer protection comes, and the awareness of the people is rising, they all see us for losses. Then we have to be very much cautious here, and we should be very much vigilant here in ourselves, with our staff, with our even operation theater also, because sometimes we have infections in our theaters and there is the infection in the eye and pseudomonas infections, and patients are turning blind. Patient coming with some vision and goes blind, and certainly that speaks itself, and we are going to have trouble. Similarly, if a patient was very well, having some minor procedure and suddenly dies because of some mishappening or misadventures, then we should also, that will also be investigated in, and it is going to be tough for regulation and all that. In cases of drunkenness, broad death and natural disasters, some natural disasters has happened, then we have to be very much cautious. In cases of drunkenness, if some drunk person has come, then we have to inform. Broad death, then we have to inform. Medical legal case, suspicious cases lead to emergency. Unstable patient, stabilize, primary treatment given, then MLC and the documentation to be done in the MLC register. We should have a MLC register in our department, in our hospital, and we should always document all the register cases of emergency or medical legal should be reported in that registered, and non-emergency or stable patients sometimes turn into or already MLC case, which are non-emergency but stable. That can also be stable, because if somebody is having fracture due to assault but he is stable, so he should also be registered as a medical legal case. Or somebody is having head injury and in road accident and he is unconscious, then he should be stabilized, then again he should be registered as a medical legal case. We should have a dedicated staff, and we should be very much in monitoring condition that it is this case has been registered as a medical legal case or not. Sometimes a patient in the hospital, again I told it earlier also, that he is admitted as a non-medical legal case and may turn up into medical legal case, like falling, somebody have pushed the patient on the floor, or patient get electrocuted by using some of the appliances of the hospital, then this can turn into a medical legal case. We have to be very vigilant, and we should be keep documenting. We should be keeping it documented every time what is happening with the patient. Protocol for filling the medical legal report. A medical legal report should be most of the time documented on a pre-designed pro forma, because it makes us easy to fill the required field, and most of the time we don't if we don't miss the things, miss to take an examination, miss to take the notes and all that. So pro forma, pre-designed pro forma is there, then we have to be, it is easy to fill, and it is most of the time we don't miss the thing which are necessary to be documented. But very important thing which I already emphasized, and I am again emphasizing, that none of the columns should be left blank. We should not leave any column of the pro forma blank. If present, write present. If not present, not present. If not applicable, not applicable. But we should not write leave blank. And one of the other thing which we always use plus or minus signs, like this, plus or minus, or plus like this, plus minus. These are very dangerous practice, because this plus is plus, okay, but this minus anyone can do plus, so we'll end up in trouble. Oh, we should not write these all things. We should write present full or absent full. No, like something which is short forms. We generally use people use short form abbreviations. These all should be avoided because in the long run these trends change. Trends change. Chances of manipulation is there, and which trend is here nowadays may not be trend in the future in 5 to 6 years. So we don't remember the thing, but we should, if we are writing in complete, which is a readable language, then we are much on the safer side. Primarily, the information of the police should be sent in the proper form. There is a form designed for that in most of the hospital for police memo. A particular form is available and that should be filled and sent to the police. Take consent for examination of the patient. Patient's consent should be taken for examination. If less than 12 years of age, take the consent of the guardian. Primary entries should be complete. It means the name, age, sex and all the related information, address, which I have already emphasized in the injury report, should be taken complete. It means the name should be complete. Name should not be a nickname or any other name. We should know the proper name of the patient. We should know the age of the patient. If possible, any identification card is present, then that we should follow that identification card sometimes, and we should write the complete address, postal address. So if in future if we need to recall that patient, we can recall with that address. So complete postal address, complete age, complete name, and the person accompanying, all the data should be in clear capital letters, and it should be readable language. It should not be that somebody is reading something something some name, somebody is reading some other name. We did often get these case files and the DCs and the injury reports for the name correction. Name is something was different written, like somebody is having nickname, it has been written at the time of admission, and that is going on. But after discharge, patient says that my name is not this, my name is this. Somebody told the nickname of my nickname. So these all the things happen, and we get, and patient go for the course correction or the key correction of the name, and that is a very tedious process, and we subject from our perspective, we subject that person for the further labor and the weight and further trauma also. We can say it is a mental trauma, that we are adding trauma to that person. 2 identification marks has to be taken, preferably on the accessible part. I have already discussed in the previous lectures that what are the identification marks. It should be, identification marks should be, first of all, should be permanent. First of all, they should be immobile with time, and they should be present on the easily accessible part of the body, because we should not get person get completely naked for something to examine. That it should be on the hand, and on the face, on the leg, or some easy on the neck, on the easily accessible part, and that mark should be at least 2 or 3 marks should be taken, because maybe in due course of time person may lose one of the mark. So we should be aware of that. Time and date is important because when date is very important, when the patient was brought up, when the date of the examination, then time of the examination, start and stop, which I have already given in that. So we have to be very much vigilant that it should be start and stop timeline, date on the of the examination, place of the examination, and then another thing is that who is examining that person. This all should be mentioned in the proforma, because we don't really important who is examining, who is attending, that is also important. We should be clear that that person was on duty on that time or not, or somebody else duty was there and somebody else is performing, and the replacement is there or not. Is all are the legal terms which we come into the in the court. If some doctor's duty was not there and he was not assigned at that duty, still that he performs that thing, he then that examination become invalid. We don't most of the time don't follow these things, because invalidity can be proved in any form in the court. We should be very much vigilant whether the place was proper, whether the time was proper, whether the attendant was proper, whether the doctor was who was assigned was on duty. So all the things should be, all the parameters should be met before starting the examination, and we should do examination thoroughly from head to toe and examine all the necessary parts. If the patient is under observation to decide the severity of injury condition, same should be indicated in medical legal report. If some injuries can be presented after some time, or some medical legal condition in which after some time some injury is present, then observation, especially the head injuries and all that, then we should be recording that also patient is under observation and for this and that. So we are being safe, because if we don't write, then we will sometime in the court they will say that you did not keep the patient under observation and you just left the patient was under lucid interval and turned up back with a severe rebound head swelling and all that. So we should be very much clear that we in writing that on what grounds we are leaving the patient, on what ground we are not doing this, on what ground we are doing it. This all should be mentioned, and we should be very much clear that we are documenting everything. Take proper history of the patient. History, while taking history, one should be very much aware that proper history should be the important, family history should be important, but we should be cautious about history, especially in medical legal cases, because the histories are most of the time doctored, means they can be false or or implicating someone else. So we should write complete history, but we should not be relying on complete history. I am again saying we should not relying on the history, but we should collaborate that with our examination. If we find that the history and examination are somehow matching, then further clues from the history can be taken. But if it is totally contradictory, then we should completely rely on the examination by which we are finding, because history patient may be not completely telling the whole story. Take proper history in the patient guardian's own words and document properly. In case of poisoning and other cases, general examination and other signs should be mentioned in detail. So we should be completely examining all the cases of the poisoning. Use standard format wherever possible. One standard format of the documentation of the injury poisoning cases. We have all the proformas in our hospital. Injury cases are separate, poisoning are separate, and the burn cases are separate, and the gunshot cases are having separate proformas. Every injury has separate proforma, and we document on these proformas based. So every hospital should develop that, and should there are also model proformas some of the government site we can download that from there, and we should start practicing on that. Detailed police constable, details of the police constable who has brought the case should also be noted. Like a column should also be there for the police constable or the police personnel who has brought the person to the emergency for examination.